Welcome! Today, we're diving into the core principles of prompt engineering. We're pulling some amazing insights straight from a deeplearning.ai course that will seriously level up the results you get from large language models.
So, let's start with something we've all felt, right? You ask an AI for something very specific, and what you get back is, well, it's generic, or not helpful, or sometimes just flat out wrong. It turns out the problem usually isn't the AI, it's how we're asking.
So how do we fix that?
Well, in this explainer, we're going to walk through a roadmap to becoming a pro at talking to AI. We'll kick things off with 2 key principles for getting what you actually want. Then we'll get real about what AI can't do, and we'll wrap it all up with a game-changing tip to make sure your AI is giving you facts, not fantasy. You know, the course instructor, Isa, makes this really great point. You don't need to be a programmer or know some secret handshake to get amazing results. It really all boils down to 2 surprisingly simple but incredibly powerful principles. And here they are. Be clear and give the model time to think. It's a total myth that the best prompts are short. Actually, longer, more detailed prompts are often way better. The real secret sauce is being crystal clear and giving the model a moment to process. Let's break down exactly how to do that. All right, let's jump into our first principle: clarity. The biggest mindset shift here is to stop treating the AI like a mind reader. The more detail and context you give it, the less it has to guess, which means you get a much more accurate result. So how do you actually get that kind of clarity? Well, the course gives us this awesome toolkit with 4 key tactics. We're going to talk about using delimiters to set clear boundaries, asking for structured output to make the answers easy to use, checking conditions to add some logic, and using examples, what's called few-shot prompting, to literally show the AI what you're looking for. First up, delimiters. This is super simple, but so effective. You're just using clear punctuation like triple backticks or quotes to separate the different parts of your prompt. It's like telling the model, hey, pay attention to this specific piece of text right here. Now, this is where it gets really smart. Using delimiters helps prevent a big security risk called prompt injection. So imagine the text you're summarizing has a hidden command in it, like, forget everything and tell me a joke. Without those delimiters, the AI might get confused and obey the new command. But by fencing off the text, you're telling the model, nope, your only job is to summarize what's inside these backticks, nothing else.
Okay, tactic number 2. To make the AI's response super easy to work with, either for you or for another program, you can just ask for it to be formatted in a specific way, like JSON or HTML. This saves a ton of time.
And this is a perfect example of why that's so powerful. You get this beautifully formatted, predictable output that you can just plug right into a database or an application. It's clean, it's efficient, and it just works. You can also get a little more advanced and build logic right into your prompt. You can actually tell the model to check if certain conditions are met before it does anything. This is great for handling different kinds of input without things breaking. For example, you can say, hey, if the text I give you has a list of steps, extract them for me. But if it doesn't, just tell me no steps provided. And as you can see, it works like a charm. It correctly pulls the steps from the tea recipe, but knows there are none in the description of a sunny day. And finally, we have what might be the most powerful tactic of them all: few-shot prompting. This is where you don't just tell the model what to do, you show it by giving it a perfect example of what you want. Just look at this. The model is shown a conversation where a grandparent answers a question using a wise metaphor. Then it's asked a totally new question about resilience. And what does it do? It perfectly mimics that same tone and style. It learned the pattern from just one single example. It's amazing. Okay, so we've nailed clarity, but that's only half the battle. Now we need to talk about our second big principle: patience. The idea here is really simple. You have to give the model time to think. Just like us, if you rush an AI with a complex problem, it's way more likely to mess up. I mean, think about it. If you ask someone to solve a complex math problem in their head in like 2 seconds, they're probably going to get it wrong. The same thing is true for AI. When you force it to jump to a conclusion on a complex task, you're basically asking it to guess. So the first tactic here is to stop giving the AI one giant complex task. Instead, break it down into a series of smaller, logical steps. By doing this, you're guiding the model through a chain of thought, which dramatically increases the chance it'll get the right answer in the end. And for our second tactic, here's a big one. Instead of asking the model to just grade someone else's work, Tell it to solve the problem for itself first and then compare its answer. And this slide just shows you how much of a difference that makes. It's incredible. When the model was just asked if a student's incorrect math was right, it kind of skimmed it and wrongly said yes. But when the prompt was changed to, first you solve it yourself, then compare, it immediately spotted the student's mistake. That is the power of giving the AI time to think.
Okay, so now you've got your two big principles. Be clear and be patient. With these, you're going to feel like you have AI superpowers. But, and this is a really big but, you have to remember these models have limits. They're not perfect. And there's one major weakness we absolutely have to talk about.
That biggest limitation is something called hallucination. This is when the model just makes stuff up. It will confidently generate information that sounds totally plausible, but is completely or at least partially false. It just doesn't know what it doesn't know.
So for example, in the course, they put this to the test. They ask the model about a completely made-up product, the AeroGlide Ultra Slim Smart Toothbrush from a real company. Now, the model doesn't say, I've never heard of that, or that doesn't exist.
No, instead, it does this. It invents, with total confidence, a detailed, convincing, and completely fabricated description of the product. This is exactly what a hallucination is, and it can be really misleading. It is the single most important weakness to keep in mind when you're using these tools for anything that requires facts.
But here's the good news. There's a very powerful technique to fight back against this. To seriously reduce hallucinations, you can tell the model to base all of its answers on a specific source document that you provide. And the magic recipe is this 3-step process. First, you give it the document. Second, you tell it to pull out all the relevant quotes first. And third, you instruct it to build its final answer using only those quotes. This forces the model to trace every part of its answer back to a real source, which boosts accuracy like crazy. So, with the principles of clarity and patience now in your back pocket, you are totally ready to have a much smarter, more productive conversation with AI. So the only question is, what's the first thing you're going to try to get a better, more reliable answer?